Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Anna.
And I'm Brian. We're recording this from the studio today, and we decided to dive into a topic that feels simultaneously exhausted and perpetually urgent. The idea of work-life balance, or as we're increasingly calling it, work-life integration.
Integration is the far more honest word, isn't it? Balance implies a perfectly equal scale, which, let's be realistic, never actually happens. It's always a chaotic moving target. What struck me recently, Brian, is that the technological solutions that were supposed to grant us freedom, Slack, remote access, constant connectivity, have become the new source of fatigue. We're never truly offline.
It's the ultimate paradox. We swapped the physical commute for the mental one. You used to leave the office and the firewall was the drive home. Now the office lives permanently in your pocket. I was reading a report by the Institute for Future Studies suggesting that the average knowledge worker checks email or messaging at least 10 times after formal working hours. It's an internal pressure, not just an external one, and it erodes the entire concept of boundary setting.
Absolutely. Boundary setting is now a skill you have to actively train yourself on, like coding or public speaking. It's no longer a passive state. Think about the generational shift here, too. Millennials and Gen Z, who entered the workforce with these tools already embedded, don't know a world where the two spheres were truly separate. They grew up in the cloud, and so did their jobs.
That's a powerful point. For our generation, the shift was a transition, a learned flexibility. For them, it's the default setting. I wonder if they're better at managing it or if they simply burn out faster because the distinction between on and off duty never fully registers.
Anecdotally, I see a mix. Some are incredibly deliberate about using technology to enable a lifestyle, taking calls from a campsite or designing their workday around exercise classes. They treat the flexibility as a core benefit. Others treat it as an obligation, feeling guilty if they don't respond immediately to a non-urgent message at 9 p.m. The key differentiator seems to be autonomy over one's schedule.
That word autonomy is critical. The best companies aren't just offering flexibility, they're offering trust. They're not monitoring keystrokes, they're measuring outcomes. When you trust an employee to deliver results on their own schedule, you inherently grant them the space to manage their personal lives. That's true integration. It's a culture shift, not just an HR policy update.
And that culture shift has massive implications for leadership. The old school manager whose authority was tied to physical proximity and surveillance, seeing who arrived first, who stayed latest, is completely obsolete. You need leaders who manage by purpose and communication, not by presence.
It requires leaders to be excellent communicators, especially when asynchronous work is involved. You can't just rely on body language or overhearing something in the hallway. Every directive, every piece of feedback has to be written or articulated clearly, often across multiple time zones. Miscommunication becomes a massive time sink.
It does. And let's not forget the sheer fatigue that comes with being constantly ready to perform. We've talked before about Zoom fatigue, the exhaustion from managing self presentation, staring at one's own face, and processing nonverbal cues in an unnatural format. That digital overhead is a real cost.
A significant cost. And yet, if we look back even 5 years, this level of remote capability was science fiction for most firms. We've gained access to a truly global talent pool, decreased commercial real estate costs, and allowed people to live where they want. The benefits are massive, but the infrastructure, mental and technical, needed to support it sustainably is still being built. It's a constant improvisation.
It really is. I think the next frontier isn't just hybrid work, it's the 4-day work week or more creative scheduling models. The pandemic proved that output isn't directly correlated with hours logged. If people can hit their KPIs in fewer, more focused hours, why demand the traditional 9 to 5, 5 days a week? That model is fundamentally a relic of the industrial age.
I agree, the 4-day week is gaining serious traction, primarily in Europe right now. The results from pilots in Iceland, Spain, and even some US companies show improved morale, reduced stress, and crucially maintained or increased productivity. It forces efficiency. If you know you only have 4 days, you cut out the wasted meetings and the unnecessary bureaucracy. It imposes focus.
It reframes the entire employment contract. You're not paying for time, you're paying for intellectual capital and output. But what about the industries that can't easily adopt this? Healthcare, manufacturing, service industries. We have to ensure that our future of work discussions don't exclusively cater to the comfortable laptop class. The inequality and flexibility is a growing social issue.
That's a very important dimension to this. The essential worker, the service sector employee, their relationship with work is defined by physical presence. We must find ways to improve their integration by advocating for better scheduling predictability, guaranteed minimum hours, and better sick leave policies. Flexibility isn't just about location, it's about control over one's time, whether you're remote or on the factory floor.
Control over one's time. That really is the heart of the matter. If we can solve that, regardless of the job type, we start moving toward true integration.
Welcome back. That first segment really established the current landscape, the push-pull between the technology we use and the boundaries we need. But let's dive into the practical application of integration. Anna, in your experience, what are the most common mistakes professionals make when trying to integrate their lives?
I think the biggest mistake is confusion between flexibility and availability. They think that because they can answer an email at 10 p.m., they must. They fail to set physical and digital cues. When you work from home, the only way to signal that you are off is to create a ritual. Whether it's putting the laptop in a specific drawer, changing out of your work clothes, or taking a 5-minute walk to signify the commute home.
The physical cue is vital. My personal solution was setting a hard stop time for messaging platforms. I use the scheduling feature in Slack and email aggressively. Nothing non-urgent gets sent after 5:30 p.m. Even if I wrote it at 9 p.m., it respects the recipient's boundary and mine, and models healthy behavior for my team.
That modeling is leadership. And what about the physical space itself? A lot of people spent 2 years working from the kitchen table, blurring the lines of the home entirely. The physical separation between work area and living area is so important for the mental firewall. I know people who had to get creative, using screens or curtains to partition a single room.
The lack of separation contributes to chronic cognitive load. Your brain never fully disengages because it associates the entire environment with stress or task completion. I also think one common mistake is the lack of a third space. The old model had 3 spaces: home, work, and the gym, social life, or third place. Now, work has colonized home, and the third space often vanishes.
That third space is where the spontaneous, creative, and unplanned interactions happen, the kind that lead to true insight. If all your interactions are scheduled Zoom calls, you lose that serendipity. That's a subtle cost of integration.
It's why companies are desperately trying to lure people back to the office a couple of days a week, not necessarily for productivity, but for culture and those unplanned collisions. They're realizing that culture is built in proximity, even if tasks can be done remotely.
But there's a danger there too. If the expectation is that you come into the office only for meetings, the in-office day becomes pure social exhaustion. Back-to-back meetings all day, leaving no time for the deep work that often requires remote focus. That makes the commute feel like a punitive waste of time.
That's the hybrid trap. The solution is intentionality. The office day must be designated for collaboration, team building, and relationship maintenance. The remote days must be protected for deep, focused work. Leaders need to guide teams on why they are coming in and what they should be doing when they are there.
The concept of time blocking has become extremely powerful in this context. Rather than just making a to-do list, you allocate specific blocks of time, often non-negotiable, for focused work, exercise, and personal activities. That structure is essential when the physical walls of the office are gone.
It's a self-management masterclass. You are effectively your own project manager. But what do we do about the constant pull of the digital notifications? Even with time blocking, the ping of a new message breaks concentration and can take 20 minutes to recover from.
That's where we need better digital etiquette, which needs to be codified at the company level. Simple things like using the FYI tag on non-urgent emails or having specific channels for urgent versus non-urgent communications. But the most powerful tool, ironically, is the Do Not Disturb button. Learning to deploy that for hours at a time is the ultimate boundary.
I agree. The D&D is the new office door. We need to normalize its use and recognize that a person setting aside uninterrupted time is a sign of productivity, not laziness or inaccessibility. If you're a leader, you should be encouraging your team to take those focus blocks and not interrupt them. That creates psychological safety for deep work.
Psychological safety is the foundation of successful integration. If an employee feels safe setting a boundary, saying, I won't check email after 6 p.m., and that boundary is respected, they will ultimately be more engaged, creative, and productive when they are on.
Let's shift our focus to the organizational tools and structures that actually support this integration. It's not just about turning off notifications, it's about setting up a system that allows flexibility to function.
Absolutely. Asynchronous communication tools are the backbone of successful distributed teams. Platforms like Notion, Trello, or Asana, which focus on project status and documentation, are far superior to relying solely on real-time messaging like Slack.
Documentation is the new communication. If the status of a project lives in a real-time chat, it forces everyone to be available in real time to understand the latest update. If the status is clearly documented in a project management system, an employee in another time zone can check it at their convenience. That's the essence of asynchronous work.
It is, but that requires disciplined, high-quality writing. You can't rely on quick shorthand. Documentation must be concise, clear, and complete. It forces better project hygiene. I also think we need to talk about the meeting structure. Are there tools or practices that are helping reduce meeting bloat?
Meeting bloat is an epidemic. The default is often a 1-hour meeting, even if the agenda only requires 15 minutes. I think the tools that allow for pre-reading or meeting summaries are key. If you can read a detailed memo beforehand, the meeting itself can be reserved solely for debate, decision-making, or building rapport, not just sharing information.
The best practice I've seen is the use of no meeting days or core collaboration hours. Designating certain blocks of time, say 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., as the only time meetings can occur allows people to structure their entire day around deep work blocks before and after.
That's a practical organizational boundary. It sets an expectation that your focus time is sacred. I also think that the rise of internal knowledge sharing platforms, internal wikis, searchable databases of past projects are helping reduce repetitive questions and interruptions. An employee should be able to find the answer before they have to interrupt a colleague.
That goes back to the importance of documentation we mentioned. It shifts the burden of knowledge from the individual person to the organizational system. The system should hold the information, not the people.
And what about the tools for well-being? We're seeing more companies integrate mental health services, virtual wellness programs, and even internal applications that encourage micro breaks or guided meditation. It's an acceptance that integration means the company has a stake in the employee's holistic health.
It reflects a broader understanding that sustained productivity requires sustained well-being. Burnout is a business risk. If employees are constantly fatigued due to blurred boundaries, the company will eventually suffer in terms of retention, creativity, and quality of work. These tools are no longer perks. They are necessary maintenance for the intellectual engine.
I think we'll see more advanced integration of these tools into standard HR and performance reviews, recognizing that time off, mental health utilization, and boundary setting are indicators of a healthy, sustainable work pace, not just optional add-ons.
We've talked a lot about the technology and the organizational structures, but let's shift to the soft skills, the psychological and social contracts necessary for integration to thrive. Specifically, how do managers effectively deliver feedback and manage performance when they can't physically observe the work being done?
This is where the old management paradigm completely breaks down. Performance review can no longer be based on effort or visible busy work. It must be strictly focused on measurable, agreed upon outcomes, the KPIs. The feedback process has to become much more structured and evidence-based.
It requires managers to ask better questions during one-on-ones. Instead of asking, "What did you work on this week?" which invites a list of tasks, they should ask, "How did your actions move us toward the quarterly objective?" or "What barriers did you remove?" It focuses the conversation on value creation.
And the nature of feedback has to change. Because so much communication is asynchronous and written, managers need to be adept at providing balanced, nuanced feedback that doesn't rely on tone or body language. They have to avoid the temptation to micromanage just because they can peek into someone's Slack status.
The reliance on written communication actually demands managers become better writers, clear, empathetic, and direct. The written word can easily be misinterpreted as cold or harsh, so emotional intelligence must be baked into the text.
I think the biggest cultural shift is in promoting psychological safety. Employees must feel safe admitting when they are overwhelmed, when they need a boundary, or when they need to step away for a personal issue without fear of professional retaliation or being seen as less committed.
That safety starts with the leadership modeling vulnerability. If a CEO or manager talks openly about taking a break or admits they were struggling with boundary setting, it gives the entire team permission to do the same.
And there's a fascinating phenomenon emerging around virtual water cooler etiquette. The digital spaces that mimic casual interaction, a non-work chat channel, a brief informal video check-in are vital for maintaining social cohesion. But they have to be organic and optional, not mandatory team-building exercises.
They're critical for preventing the team from devolving into a collection of transactional workers. You need to know the person behind the avatar. But the balance is delicate. Too much forced social interaction can feel draining, especially for introverts.
So it comes back to that central theme, autonomy. Give people the space to connect when and how they feel most comfortable, but create the structures, the non-work channels, the intentional check-ins where those connections can occur. The company provides the space, the employees provide the humanity. Let's talk about the physical tools that make the integration model sustainable. We've talked about the mental firewall, but what about the infrastructure?
The quality of the home office setup is no longer a personal luxury, it's a professional necessity. Companies are moving towards stipends for high-speed internet, ergonomic chairs, standing desks, and better lighting. The employer has a vested interest in preventing repetitive strain injuries and ensuring a professional environment, even if it's in a spare bedroom.
And the software stack is critical. It must be standardized. Having 3 different platforms for file sharing, 2 for project management, and a legacy email system creates massive friction. The fewer tools, the better. Simplicity is efficiency.
We also need better tools for time zone management. The constant mental arithmetic of, if it's 9 a.m. here, it's 2 p.m. there, is exhausting. Automated scheduling tools that clearly display the availability across a globally distributed team are essential for preventing late-night emails and scheduling conflicts.
The sophistication of meeting technology is also rising. We're seeing better noise cancellation, automatic transcription, and even AI summaries of long meetings. These aren't just conveniences, they are accessibility features that allow people to process information more effectively and reduce the fatigue of constant, high-attention focus.
The trend toward ambient intelligence in the workplace is fascinating. Think about AI tools that proactively flag when a team member is scheduled for too many meetings, or when their calendar shows too little time for focus blocks. It's the system intervening to enforce healthy boundaries before burnout occurs.
It's the digital system acting as a responsible manager, correcting the human tendency to overcommit. That's true integration. Technology supporting the health of the worker, not just the productivity.
And finally, the shift to secure, robust cloud infrastructure has made the whole thing possible. The ability to access all necessary data and applications securely from anywhere in the world is the foundation of distributed work. Without that technical maturity, none of this integration would be feasible.
So the physical tools create the safe, comfortable environment, the software tools create the efficient, asynchronous workflow, and the AI tools are starting to manage the human tendency towards self-neglect. It's a comprehensive ecosystem.
Anna, we've covered the sociological paradox, the management shift, the psychological contracts, and the technical infrastructure. As we wrap up, what do you see as the single most important factor for an individual worker trying to successfully integrate their life?
I think it comes down to radical self-awareness. The individual needs to know when they are most productive, when they need a hard stop, and what activities refuel them. True integration means designing the work around the life, not fitting the life into the work. That requires brutal honesty about one's own limits and energy levels.
I completely agree. The ability to say no without feeling guilt is the superpower of the integrated professional. If you don't define your boundaries, the company will happily define them for you, and those boundaries will likely be detrimental to your well-being.
And for companies, the most important long-term strategy is to permanently commit to measuring outcomes, not activity. As long as they prioritize time in sea or last seen online, they will erode trust and encourage performative busy work. Leadership must trust the output.
That trust is what attracts and retains the best talent. The future of work isn't just about offering remote options. It's about offering a culture where employees are respected as adults capable of managing their own time and delivering value asynchronously.
So, the final word. Work-life balance is a myth. Work-life integration is the reality, and it is a skill that must be practiced daily, managed proactively, and supported by intentional systems and empathetic leadership.
A necessary skill indeed. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the integration paradox.
We'll be back next week to explore the future of team innovation in a distributed environment. Until then, remember to log off and take a walk.
Goodbye for now.